What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. We're back in Historic. Just doing a little best of one list for you guys here today. This one was submitted by a subscriber. They wanted to see a Abzan or Selesnya version of Huatli. Since I already had a Selesnya Vigilance version of Huatli, I decided to make it Abzan and incorporate the life gain theme with Alert Heedbonder and combine that with Vito. And just as a way to kind of ping our opponents, so no matter what the matchup is, or at least we have, depending on the matchup, we have more options to just drain out our opponent. We'd get one new card in Zendikar, but otherwise nothing really caught my eye as far as upgrades for this list. So it's mostly intact except for this new card, which I'll get to at the end. All right, so Huatli is the main builder on here, so all 4 copies. Just in case you're not familiar, she's a 3-mana, 7 loyalty planeswalker. Creatures you control assign combat damage equal to their toughness rather than their power, and you can -3 to gain life greatest to toughness. So obviously toughness matters. So and the nice thing about vigilance is a lot of the creatures with vigilance already naturally have lots of high toughness. And also same thing with Vito. It's 3 toughness, of course, for a 3-mana 1/3. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and you can pay 5 to give your creatures a lifelink until end of turn. So a lot of times that can just be kind of game ending. But we're not all in on the Vito strategy. We're mostly on the vigilance, because that's kind of like your bread and butter. And then Vito just kind of gives you like a kind of a secondary or supplemental way to kind of close out games. We're also going to be running the Indulging Patrician. Even without Vito, this is still a pretty solid card in this list. Obviously, 1/4 Flying Lifelinker becomes a 4/4 Flying Lifelinker with a Huatli out. And at the beginning of your step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. So if you attack in the air, your opponent doesn't have a flyer, doesn't know what to deal with this, then you get in for 4 lifelink damage, and then you go to your instep, and you ping your opponent for an additional 3 life. And obviously, once you have Vito out and things like that, things get pretty crazy. All right. Top of the list here, we have 4 copies of Hushbringer. Lots of enter the battlefield triggers in Historic. Not just goblins, but plenty of other things as well, elementals and whatnot. And Hushbringer shuts all those decks down. Our deck does not have any enter the battlefield or dying triggers, so we are perfectly safe here. So all 4 copies. And of course, the toughness matters here. 1/2 Flying Lifelinker. Liliana's Triumph for some interaction here. There are some hexproof shenanigans with like the Azorius auras, especially in best of 1 and things like that. And we have ways to kind of get around our opponent having wide board states as well. So we don't necessarily mind if they do have multiple creatures out and they sacrifice their weakest one, because we have other ways to kind of get around that. 2 Assassin's Trophy, which is kind of like a main deck catch-all removal, especially in speed. And we generally don't mind kind of ramping our opponent. And there certainly could be some decks that don't even have basics, and you can punish them pretty hard. But just having main deck answers that can kind of catch all for anything feels pretty good. 4 copies here of Huatli's Raptor. This isn't enter the battlefield trigger, so it will obviously not work with the Hushbringer already in play. But we're not really doing a whole lot of proliferation. We have Planeswalkers, of course, that we can add their loyalty counters to. But whether we do or not, it's not like super important. So obviously, a lot of times we won't even see your Hushbringer, or your opponent will just have ways to deal with it. So you can still get some value off of Huatli's Raptor here in the late game with your Planeswalkers already in play. So either way, it's a solid 2/3 Vigilance creature. Already one of the 2 copies of Vito, and just the 3 copies of Indulging Patrician. If you want to make room for some additional removal here in Maelstrom Pulse. It's kind of like a trophy, but it's sorcery speed and has the upside of being able to deal with all permanents that share the same name as that type. So obviously there's plenty of linear strategies in Historic, even like tokens and things like that. So if you have if your opponent is running a bunch of tokens of the same kind, whether it's goblins or soldiers or whatever the case may be, you can just 1 spell and just gets rid of all of them. So that's pretty nice upside. But either way, just having a 3-mana just kill anything is still just fine as it is. Alert Heedbonder, of course, 3-mana, 2/4 Vigilance. And that's the thing about this in a 3-card deck, because it has hybrid mana cost here. 2/4 Vigilance. At the beginning of your step, you gain 1 life for each creature you control with the Vigilance. Since most of our creatures do have Vigilance, it's going to work well, of course, with Vito, and just getting some extra drain damage. We also have 2 copies here of Shalai, 3/4, 4-mana for a flyer. You Planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control have hexproof. So Shalai does not have hexproof, but we have Huatli and all of our other creatures hexproof. So they have to deal with Shalai before they can target anything else. Obviously, we're still susceptible to board wipes. However, it does give us protection from Settle the Wreckage, because we have hexproof and Settle targets the player. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And then, of course, if we are in kind of a board stall situation where we have lots of creatures, your opponent has lots of creatures, and it's don't necessarily have good attacks and then have good attacks, Just kind of staring at each other. Well, Shalai can be a mana sink in the late game, but just putting counters on each of your creatures for 6 mana, so not bad. One copy here of Sorin kind of goes along with our Vito plan, but also, we have plenty of 2 and 3 drop creatures that we can get back with Sorin. Your opponent's probably running some removal, you might have to trade off in combat, things like that. And Sorin can just come down and immediately get one of your creatures back. Otherwise, if you just play this on curve or whatever, you can just ping your opponent for +2 and start pinging away at your opponent, and also giving your creatures lifelink on your turn while you're attacking it with your vigilant creatures. For Frondland Felidar, that's one of the keys here in the deck. It's really amazing against other creature matchups. Now, 4 mana for a 3/5 vigilant creature, and all your creatures with vigilance have pay 1 to tap target creature. So basically, it's like a pseudo removal, so we can just kind of keep attacking in. And you can do this as your opponent's end step or whatever. There's different things you can do, ways to abuse this. Final here, this is one of the new copies here from Zendikar Rising. It's a 5-mana 2/6 flying double strike. I was originally looking at Oketra here in this list, the same casting cost Oketra, the one from War of the Spark, which fairly similar stat line. Double strike as well, but however, it doesn't have flying, which Angel here does. And this has a pretty interesting winning condition that kind of goes along with our Huatli gaining life and Vito gaining life here as well. It's whenever a creature controlled deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. At the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 more life than your starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny attack this turn loses the game. So yep, all we have to do is attack with the Angel of Destiny, and your opponent loses the game if we're able to gain him a whole bunch of life. So that can be pretty interesting way to just win, because it doesn't have to deal damage, just has to attack. It does have to survive, of course, because it has to go to your end step, but something to keep in mind. Alright, so just basic 24 lands here. Didn't really see any of the Zendikar Rising lands that really made sense here. So we're just kind of sticking with what we got. 2 plains, swamp, a forest, 4 Godless Shrine, 2 chapel, 4 tomb, 2 Sunpetal Grove, 4 temple garden, and 4 Indatha Triome. This is more of a kind of a casual list, so I'm just going to play it in best of 1. But if you do want to try it in some of the lower ranks of historic rank, you can try this out in best of 3. Here's a sideboard you can kind of work with. A couple Agonizing Remorse, a couple Heroic Interventions, some Banishing Lights for some exile removal. Gideon Blackblade works really well against control matchups because it's hard to deal with. Davriel, kind of the same thing, forcing your mid-range control combo opponent to discard cards. Witch's Vengeance works well against the goblins and any other tribal lists, which there are plenty of, zombies, of course, which we like to run, and other, tribal lists that are out there. One of Liliana, forcing your opponent to discard, we're fairly aggressive, so we don't necessarily mind getting to her +1 ability. We'll probably be empty-handed by the time we cast her. And then 2 copies here of Questing Beast, just adding a little more oomph to the list, and of course, fitting in with the Vigilance theme as well. Alright, that's the deck. We'll jump into some matches. Alright, against Moon Lovegood. That's a nice name to start things off with. 3 lands and some playable cards. We'll keep it. Just want to get these Triomes online here. Just looking for some more lands, maybe some more creatures. Mono blue. Oh, Zephyrgul. Sunpetal Grove. We'll go and leave open the Triumph. We're not waiting to deal with flyers just yet, although obviously 1/1 isn't really too big of a deal, but if they are going on lots of creatures, then there's not really much we can do. They're just going to get rid of it anyway, so might as well prevent the damage. Hushbringer is a pretty solid card here. We'll play the Hushbringer and the Triome, and then now we have options next turn to just get our Frondland down, probably. Vito's not doing a whole lot. We have a Hushbringer with lifelink. We can do something. Wavebrink Hippocamp. This is just like a kind of a jank mono blue tempo. They can block, but we're just gonna gain some life here. So if they have a way to bounce our Hushbringer, might as well get in for damage while we can. Okay, Teferi's Aegis Insight. Maybe have some card draw in there. Well, unfortunately, we can only do one thing here. Insight can really get them going if they have card draw. The Hippocamp can obviously... We haven't seen any instants from them. What is the biggest threat here? Oh, let's just go to combat. Obviously, the Fairy Vandal can get big, but we haven't seen card draw from them yet. The Hippocamp, if they have answers, wow. So they do trade, or they do block with their Hippocamp. Wasn't really expecting that, so we'll get rid of the Insight. Obviously, the Vandal by itself doesn't really do a whole lot, so we'll go ahead and just leave mana open. We can tap it down at any time with the Felidar if we want. So they add another Insight, sure. Well, we'll go and tap that down. Shalai is pretty good. Just go ahead and do that so that way they can't bounce anything, or they can bounce Shalai but not our other creatures. I like another land here so we can get the 3-drop and a 2-drop down. That would be pretty sweet. Triumph. I think that's super important. We'll just get the Heedbonder down so we can start gaining a little bit of life. And hopefully we can get this Vito down next turn, and that'll probably be good enough, especially against the mono blue list. We're happy with them losing their creature there. So we're getting 2 life, 2 vigilant creatures. So obviously we're not all in on vigilance, but we have mostly vigilant creatures. Shalai I think is pretty important, as is Hushbringer in the meta, so I think it's worth making that trade-off. I'll go and tap that down since we got some open manas here. Right, go and get the Vito online. Oh, see if it resolves. No counterspell. Oh, go and get in there. Oh, bounce effect. Right, unsummon our Shalai. Sure. Right, so Hushbringer life gain for 1. Vito drains them. We're going to gain 2 more. Down to 3. So just that little incremental damage can be really add up very quickly. Opponent's deck is kind of all over the place here. With some card draw, some mill, but not really all in on any one particular aspect of that. And they seem to be kind of paying the price here. Like they finally started milling us here in, what, turn 6 or 7, whatever? Mystic Sanctuary. Get back unsummon? Sure. We have a radical idea, so you could... they could in fact cast this radical idea, get back the unsummon, and bounce something now, or in response to a Shalai or whatever. I guess once you get this engine online, it's not bad, but it's pretty slow, obviously. Oh, we'll go and tap that down. You have an unsummon, but we're staring at a whole bunch of damage here. Just play the Shalai, I guess. We're gonna unsummon something. Well, no, they can't because we got Shalai. Either way, they're dead here. So, yep, they see they're dead, so bouncing their own thing. All right. Pretty nice first match. Alright, against IB Phoenix. It's a little awkward with all these 4-drops in open hand. We have 2 playables though. Probably not worth keeping. It's not much better, but we'll give this one a go. Temple Garden, I guess. We have a decent curve here with the Triumph into Heedbonder. Alright, hope we don't get punished for them having a creature. Otherwise, I guess we can just Triumph and play a tap land, and then we'll just be turn behind, playing this on 4 and this on 5. Alright, our opponent with all the tap lands themselves, so that is untap land. So we'll get our Heedbonder online, and now we have options next turn to Shalai or Triumph. Jeskai. Is this Jeskai control and the unranked play queue? Oh boy. Nope. Chandra's Magmut. I'm not sure what to make of that. No blocks. Don't think they can hurt us too much, so we'll get the Patrician online. Let's see, life gain could be pretty important if they're just trying to burn us out with some Jeskai Elemental. Could be a Jeskai Chandra or something, maybe. Be pretty spicy. Oh, mutate. So you have to draw a card. Well, holding up Triumph should do pretty good for us then. Frondlands are also pretty sweet. So a little awkward we have to take a turn off, but you definitely want to get this off the board. Gonna gain some life on the Patrician and the Heedbonder, so give us some nice breathing room if they have some burn spells, things like that. Looks like they're just got mutate so far though. Cloudkins here draws a card. And Grinnerville. Still not entirely sure what our opponent is up to. They can't really kill anything. They have 3 power. We have 4 toughness on each of our creatures. Well, we're slowly whittling away at the life total. I might see Huatli show up at some point in our Huatli deck. Opponent going off with all the elementals. So I have 3 flyers with 4 power, so they could pick off one of our creatures, and we have the 1 power on our side. So we don't have good attacks. Obviously the Spitfire can be pretty dangerous, but I haven't really seen anything to make us afraid, so we'll just pass. Just gain some life. We can tap something down their end step. Figure out their biggest threat with a pulse. I mean, Sorin can come down and gain us a bunch of life here. As well. Scampering Scorcher. So they're just going super wide all of a sudden. They got off to such a slow start. Now they got this huge board state. I'll tap down this one. We can grow the biggest. Alright, now we got some kill spells here. Let's see, do we have enough to play both? We do. So we have 2 flyers. And the deck's kind of all over the place with these elementals, so I'm not sure if it's worth waiting on the pulse, because they might only just be running 2 or 3 or whatever of each. But obviously the Spitfire is the most dangerous. So I think we just fire this off and just get rid of it now. I don't think it's worth just killing 2 tokens. We can tap down 2 things, or we can trophy. Still don't really love our attack, so we'll just hang in there and gain some life. Just wait for a Huatli or something to show up. If we do have something big here, like a... even a Chandra doesn't really do much against us. Risen Reef is pretty annoying. Give him a ton of value. What? Acolyte of Flame. I think we just deal with the Risen Reef before they make some elementals and just start really going ham on us. So really need a Huatli here to turn this game in our favor. Otherwise, I'm sure they're going to find more Risen Reefs or something like that. There's a Huatli, so we can play Huatli. Probably need to deal with this Chandra.
There is always hope.
But we'll just swing face, see what they do. They could try to make some trades here. They have enough power on board. They just chump block. Obviously with a sword in hand we can always get the creatures back later. We just hold up hope and mana for the Frondland Felidar activations. Opponent's down to 4. That's pretty disgusting. Omnath. And a 4-color elemental build, yeah. And they're pretty janky with the Magma and the Glimmerbell and some of the other things we've seen. Obviously Risen Reef is pretty nasty. Huh. Yeah, this bug is super weird how that rank always changes. Alright, so they tap down, or try to tap down our Felidar, or well, they can only target Shalai. Let's see, they don't even have enough power to attack our Huatli, so we just use the mana, open mana to activate. And let's see, we got him in the air, so we just tap down this Glimmerbell and whatever else. Maybe the Magma, just they don't have an opportunity to ping us for any reason. Then the following turn we can just leave our mana open, swing out, and then tap down 2 more things, but they're just dead in the air either way, so it's not really necessary. They can still chump block, because we can only tap down 4 things, so there's 2, and then our untap step combat, we can tap down 2 more, so yeah. Just Flyers alone, we're going to get there, but I guess, especially with the life totals, they just kind of gave up. Sweet. Alright, that's just Judicator. Alright, hand's pretty interesting. It's playable, so we'll keep it. Just don't understand the appeal of running these 250 card decks. And there's a Huatli. Alright, there's our Angel too. We just need more lands, and we are off to the races. I think with life gain, we'll just go ahead and get these Patricians down. Well, now we don't have to. We can just play you out. These 250 card decks always run like 5 colors. It's like Arena either gives them something that's completely unplayable, or just give them perfect cards. We're definitely going to get rid of Rien. That's a ton of value there. Obviously, we're helping them fix their mana. Rien is just a little bit too good, so we need to get that off the board. Play a land, attack. Alright, so we got 5 mana open next turn. Swath Cutter Giant, that's cute. Yeah, we'll just swing with our Patrician. Gain 1. Shock in, get the Angel down, and then we can Huatli next turn. Another land would be pretty cool as well. Lord Dracus. You don't have any spells to get back? Okay. Let's give you a 2/3 flyer. Triumph. Well, that's pretty good. Not sure what that pause is for. Definitely want to fire this off. Either way, we're fine. Have 1 card in hand. Ooh. How close are we? 38? minus.
We are only as strong as our allies.
Got the Angel win. Sweet. Sweet. I think that's about all I wanted to really highlight. Doesn't get much better than that. So we got some Vito action. We got some Vigilance action. The Frondland Felidar. Been super impressed by that card ever since it came out. Looks really great against those creature-based matchups. Angel of Destiny, that double strike with the life gain is whew, so nice. So yeah, obviously I'm not really a proponent of trying to do too many things at once, which kind of looks like on paper, but you know, everything in here really synergizes with Huatli, and since she's the build around, we can kind of get away with it. Obviously we'd like more vigilant creatures to actually, you know, kind of go off with the Heedbonder, but all the vigilant creatures that we're not running aren't very, they're pretty medium, we'll say that. But Hushbringer just in the meta is a fantastic option to be able to shut down a lot of what our opponents are trying to do. Obviously it could have been really great against the Elemental deck, but unfortunately, of course, we did not see it. Of course, goblins with Muxus and whatnot rely on enter the battlefield triggers pretty significantly. Raptor, there's a new 2/3 vigilance with the same mana cost, but it like bounces lands and things like that. And we don't really care about landfall triggers or anything like that. So just rather run the Raptor because it has the upside of being able to, you know, proliferate onto our planeswalkers in the late game. And then Angel of Destiny with the double strike. Since we do have the life gain with the Heedbonder and Vito and things like that, I think it makes sense. Otherwise, you could just certainly run like Oketra. This is a mythic, so if you don't have it, then yeah, you know, just run Oketra or something like that. Or even just put like Questing Beast or whatever here in the main deck. To go over the sideboard, so you'd have some options if you want to try this out in some ranked best of 3. There's definitely you know, pretty decent power level to it. Yeah, I like the removal package here, the Triumph. You know, even against kind of a little bit go wider decks, it's still going to help you get creatures off the board, so you can easier to tap down things with the Frondland Felidar. And like I said, there's, you know, those Ars decks that can kind of get around Indestructible and Hexproof and things like that. And then the Trophy and Maelstrom Pulse are really fantastic. I do love Mythos of Nethroi as well. So it certainly would be an option. I think it kind of depends on what sort of deck you're running and what you're expecting to come up against. But I think, like I said, there's plenty of linear strategies where this can hit, you know, multiple things. And of course, the Mythos is nice because it can just deal instant speed, which is, you know, certainly pretty great. But we're not necessarily a deck that needs to play instant speed, so I'm fine with Maelstrom Pulse. But either way, you can basically kill anything you want. And then just a 2 Vito, 3 Indulging Patrician, since we're not really all in on that sort of life gain strategy. Obviously, we don't have quite as many vigilant creatures as the Selesnya version that I posted a couple months back. But yeah, you know, Huatli can gain you a bunch of life, which is pretty sweet. You know, we have lots of high toughness creatures, 4 and even as high as 6 with our Angel of Destiny. And then Sorin for some extra juicy life gain as well, while also kind of getting your creatures back. So if your opponent's running a bunch of removal, yeah, everything just kind of feels pretty solid. So thanks for watching, guys, and to the person who submitted this, hope you're pleased with how this turned out. So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you jank with